Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Talking about topics and stuff. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?
This is Johan Saul from Your Future is Metal, and you are watching Absolute Bedlam podcast.
Dorset, England's gateway to the sea. Legends tell of how travellers and wayfarers would navigate vast oceans to meet the natural beauty of the Jurassic coastline. As the centuries have passed, only their song remains. Absolute Bedlam are proud to be sponsored by Shanty Spirit, the taste of the Jurassic Coast.
Good evening and welcome to another special episode. Call them all special, makes everyone feel a bit warm and cozy, doesn't it? Another episode of Absolute Bedlam. As always, I'm your host. I'm the annoying one. And we've got a guest tonight, Mr. Marc, who is on the Craft Beer Hub YouTube channel. So I don't think I've had a craft beer or a beer reviewer on this year. I've got Blue Van Man on WhatsApp and stuff like that. I've got Scott and Wonder, and I've spoken to Lord's Brewing on here as well. Yeah. But it's been very music and YouTube centric this year. So I thought I'd break it up a bit. And hello, Marc. Nice to meet you.
Oh, mate. Hello, mate. Thanks for having me on. We've been speaking for a little while, haven't we?
Yeah, I try not to think about when I book guests now because it's just mental. Probably about a year ago, I might have spoke to you on a YouTube live about it. But yeah, it's all a blur. So we'll get into your channel in a bit, and hopefully some people from here will go and subscribe to you after this.
Oh, thank you, mate. Yeah.
But at the start of everything, at the start of life, how did you find school, Marc?
I found it all right, to be fair. I was never the most academic, I will say that. I was definitely more of a sort of doer rather than a listener, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think that played its role in a negative way in some of my school life, but equally it would have played a good role for certain subjects. I had a great group of friends throughout school. Sort of fond memories, really, mate. Fond memories.
Nice. Do you remember confiding or complying to a certain clique? Were you like part of the Goths or the Chavs or anything like that?
I was like typical lad, football lad. Definitely part of the football clique. I was like a pretty good, like pretty above average player. Always found myself in like the first teams of things, if you know what I mean. So definitely found myself in this like popular crew. Yeah. How old are you? You're early 30s, Ben, aren't you? So
yeah,
it was
30s. Yeah.
Days where it was like FC UK polos with the collars up, you know, sort of quite embarrassing looking back. But yeah, definitely in that clip.
Nice. And finally, on the school stuff, can you remember the naughtiest thing that either you or a friend did at school?
The naughtiest thing? Oh my god, there's quite a few, mate. What is the naughtiest thing we did? My school had a bus. We had a double-decker bus. I'm not going to mention the school now. My school had a double-decker bus, and it was one of the old. It would have been like one of the old buses the old double-deckers that done the rounds years ago. And they didn't need a key to start, and we prized open the doors because you used to open the door with a key on the outside, and it would open like the double doors. And we drove that around the school for a little bit, out of school hours. But yeah, that's probably the naughtiest thing I've ever done with a couple of mates.
Love that.
Yeah.
So as you are a beer review channel, this interview will be fairly sort of beer heavy.
Yeah.
And you've also said that you want this to be a surprise. So the questions are completely off the cuff and you just be as completely honest as you can with everything.
Absolutely.
First beer you can remember trying, either above the age of 18 or below. Completely up to you.
Yeah, sure. The first beer I remember trying I was below 18. I'd be about 15, I think. And it was a friend down in Kent where we used to live. A friend had his rugby semi-final, and we went back in. I'm not part of the rugby crew. I was much more sort of football orientated, but obviously there's a massive post-drinking culture in the rugby crew, in the rugby world. And they won the semi-final, went to like a county or a national final. It was quite a big one. And I remember being 15, my mate's dad plying me with pints of Oranjeboom. Anyone that knows Oranjeboom is pretty rough stuff. But yeah, that was the first time I can ever remember drinking a beer.
You remember thinking, what the hell is this? Like, why is this such a like ubiquitous thing with like my dad and my granddad? Because this tastes horrible. Because it took me ages to like actually enjoy a beer. I was probably like 19 or 20 before I actually enjoyed like a can of Foster's or something.
No, I know what you mean. I was always a sweet tooth kind of guy. So this sort of like bitter, strange looking fizzy liquid was never really appealing to me. But I just remember the hangover. It was the first time I'd ever been properly hungover, obviously. Yeah. And I must have liked it because look at me now.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Got a guest question from Dave Blue Van Man.
Yeah.
Do you think the craft beer craze has had its day, or do you think it had a bit of a surge and now it's on a bit of a plateau? Or do you just outright disagree with that and think that everything's business as usual?
Firstly, have a Dave. Secondly, is the craft beer, but I think it's a very different place. I think for those that are into their craft beers will know sort of the COVID times were like a bit of a heyday for craft beer, because what else were people doing? A lot of breweries selling their stuff, and pubs selling craft beer in milk cartons and things like that. I think it got a lot of people in. I think it's a very different world now. It's almost like it's almost been refined a little bit, if you know what I mean. I think there was this massive pool of people that were looking for something, and things like craft beer filled that gap. But now, as life's obviously, we're pretty much back to normal now, aren't we? As life has got back to normal, I think a few of those people have sort of dropped off, and I just think the group's been a lot more refined now. So has the bubble burst? I suppose that bubble probably has burst a little bit, but I think we're into a more refined industry now, whereas before it was just like everybody is now drinking it. That's where I think it's it. I think it's just a more refined thing. Certainly smaller pool of drinkers, and I think that's being felt the brewery end of things. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I think.
Do you think during COVID people potentially had a go at making beer? Because you always hear about these crazy people in America and stuff, and they make stuff in a bathtub and then they try and sell it to their neighbors and stuff. And I think craft beer has an element of that sometimes where, oh, my mate's just released some chocolate stout and I want you to try it, because my mum tried to make wine when I was younger and I think it just took too long and she got fed up with it or whatever. But do you think that's still a thing, or was that kind of this is a really, really popular thing, so let's jump on top of it and make sourdough bread like everyone did during COVID,
No, I think there's an element of that. I think there's a lot of breweries that have popped, obviously a lot of closed because the industry is a tough world at the moment. But a lot have opened, and a lot of the breweries that have opened have been home brewers. Just last week, I was down in the New Forest, and there's a new brewery opened up called the Brew Forest. Yeah. Now that's a home brewer gone mad. He's got a much sort of scaled up version of his home brew kit, but he now brews commercially. So I reckon there was a massive amount of people that probably got into home brewing. How many are brewing good stuff and have, because home brew is quite a funny sort of phrase because it can be brilliant or it can be terrible. But yeah, I reckon there probably were a few people that tried their hand. Definitely sort of out of, like I say, that kind of craft beer bubble that kind of sprung out of COVID. It probably perked a few people's interests.
Definitely. So this is like a sort of question around funny beer, where you see like strawberry milkshake flavored beer and kind of novelty, silly things. Did you try any of the Northern Monk / Aunt Bessie's collab beer? That was all over my YouTube feed when that came out.
Yeah, I did. I had the Jam Roly Poly. I had that a little while ago. They've probably released that or re-released that back into Morrison's about a year ago. I did try the apple pie one. How can I say this to be polite? It just wasn't for me. I think certain beers are sort of subjective. Beer's a subjective thing, but I think certain beers are objectively better than others in terms of quality, and like the quality of ingredients and stuff like that. And that was just quite an objectively bad beer for me. Terrible. But I did try them, and I missed out on the gravy one. Or was it the roast dinner one? And I missed out on the sticky toffee one. The sticky toffee one sounded good actually, but I have tried them, and not for me.
Blue Van Man's my barometer for stuff like that because he reviews not just beer, he reviews everything. He reviews like chainsaws, and he recently reviewed an El Paso ready meal, and he also reviewed my new sponsor, Goat Energy, because he's a legend. And even though he's got a channel of noticeable size, he still sort of messages me. Yeah. He seems to be staying at that 150. It doesn't seem to be going up. Obviously, it doesn't go down either, but the fact that he like replies to me on WhatsApp with like voice notes, he's like, right, folks. It's just, I don't know. He makes me laugh. Some of the stuff he comes out with, and he seems to send me voice notes whilst I'm like at work and he's driving around Loughborough or wherever he lives. And some of his voice notes are like 8 minutes long. And I'm like, you really could have condensed this down to like 25 seconds. You didn't need to just keep going. But I think he's hilarious, and he was getting quite annoyed at that Northern Monk Aunt Bessie's thing. He was saying it was a bit of a waste of resources, and he doesn't really understand why anyone would buy this other than for the YouTube review, which kind of creates this weird paradox, doesn't it? Where a brewery releases crap because they know it will basically, they don't need a marketing team because they've got YouTube to sort of do that for them on the back end.
I think anyone that I don't know how much you're into your beers, Ben, but Northern Monk were probably the pin-up boys, really. Certainly 2020, 2021. The stuff you could pick up in the supermarket was really good. It was fantastically well priced, and the quality was really good generally. But the last 12 months, they've fallen off a cliff, and I think that's where a lot of people. I mean, in my video, I was kind of saying, "What the hell's happened to them?" And it's a disappointment. There's a few breweries that have gone the same way, in my opinion, like Tiny Rebel and Brewdog, just mentioning two. Still sell loads of beer, you know, there's a reason they make it and everything, but it's just sad seeing sort of a once admired brewery sort of go down that road.
Funnily enough, my next question is actually about Brewdog. I feel Brewdog have good intentions, but they throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And I think the catalyst was the Punk IPA, which was like the birth of everything. And it's also a low barrier to entry if you want to try craft beer for the first time without going to a convention or buying something off a website that looks about 25 years old. But the one Brewdog beer that I tried recently that I absolutely couldn't even drink, Mark, was the Pina Colada beer. So I wanted to know if you tried that, because I'll always give quirky stuff a go, but that wasn't even like... That was like an April Fool's beer. It wasn't even drinkable. I ended up pouring it all down the sink.
I did have it. That was one of my videos a little while ago when they released a few beers at the same time. I believe it was that one. I think it was around the time they released Jet Black, which is their kind of a very close beer to Guinness, let's say. I have had it at the time.
Yeah, what's it called? I can't remember what that's called.
Black Heart.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Sorry, they did have a beer called Jet Black Heart. While I'm getting confused, but I did try it at the time. I quite like Pina Colada, so I could see there was a little bit in there for me. But equally, I think I said at the time it was a good bit of fun, but in terms of quality, like nowhere near it. And that's generally kind of like the vibe I get from Brewdog beers now. I think they are what they are. They're, like I say, I'm just one person. I mean, they've got a massive following. When you talk about like the punk thing, obviously they had the Equity for Punk system where and hundreds, probably even thousands of people invested in that. So I'm just one voice, but they've obviously got a following.
Definitely. I think they've reached a level where you've got James Wyatt, who was on the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett doing a podcast. And he hits like mainstream sort of BBC headlines and stuff. And he also does a lot on LinkedIn. I follow him on LinkedIn, and he says, like, you know, people have started nicking all of our BrewDog glasses of all our pubs, all our brick and mortar stores, as it were. So if you bring your glass back, we'll actually give you a free pint, which is kind of like a weird sort of rebellion way of dealing with people nicking stuff. And he's always been very controversial, and he wants to try and sort of get as many ears and eyes on BrewDog as possible. And I think for the most part, with the amount of money they had at the start, with their budget and stuff, I think they've achieved what they set out to do. But I think with BrewDog recently, they've been quite high risk, high reward. So some of their stuff has been crap. And as a result of that, they get a lot of backlash. But like I said earlier, with Northern Monk and stuff, people are going to review it. I've seen people review BrewDog beers within like hours of them getting released.
Yeah.
You know, on YouTube. It's almost like a race to the start, you know, of yeah, but yeah. Has there been a beer company or just a beer in general that you've been a bit apprehensive of, like the Pina Colada beer, that's actually been quite nice? So something like salted caramel beer, or like a cake flavored stout, or something that you've gone, not sure about that, but you've actually given it a go and it's actually been quite nice.
I've got the bottle actually up here. Now, this was a special edition beer from Adnams. They were 150 years old last year, and they released the beer. I genuinely quite like the Adnams stuff. I think it's pretty decent quality generally. But this was a wine barrel aged beer. It was a pale ale with coriander seeds, orange peel, and black currants, and it was about £9 a bottle. That's a 330, but it's a special. I was apprehensive because I was like £9. And those kind of out there beers aren't really what Adnams do day to day, but that was fantastic. They're probably sold out of it now, unfortunately. But it was basically an 11% barrel aged pale ale. It shouldn't work, but it was blooming good. So yeah, definitely that one. That was really, really good.
Yeah, it's funny how we kind of build up our defenses when we know that we like 2 or 3 beers. Yeah. We don't tend to sort of venture out of our comfortable sort of zone.
No.
But, you go to events and conferences and stuff, don't you? So you kind of have to see what Lord's Brewing is doing next, or whoever's at the events and stuff like that. You've got to just sort of throw yourself in and see what comes out the other side.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the best examples, I think I'm very guilty of that. I'm very guilty of sort of sticking in a lane. So, I mean, for a couple of years, it was pale ales and IPAs, like hoppy stuff. Recently, it's been sort of lagers and vice beers, and I'm very sort of on the trend. Not saying I lead it, but I follow it, sort of thing. Subconsciously or not, I don't know. But last year, I done there's a bottle shop called Trembling Madness in York, and they are fantastic. They curate. They've got some fantastic beers that they curate, and they basically make a box every year, and it's an advent calendar. And that was a really good box for taking me out of my comfort zone, because they did a couple of boxes. You could choose the general box, which is the one I chose, or you could choose a pale and IPA or a stout box. And it was really good taking me out of my comfort zone, because I'm not a beer expert. I'm a hobbyist that's just sharing a passion. So like I say, it was good to kind of get my chops around some really different stuff, get me thinking a little bit. Some of it I liked, some of it I didn't. But yeah, definitely guilty of staying the lane. But yeah, that box was really good for getting me out of my comfort zone and getting my chops around some stuff that I wouldn't ordinarily buy.
Did you try any boxes from Beer 52?
No. No disrespect to Beer 52. Flavorly, I think Flavorly have actually gone to bankruptcy, or they've stopped trading. Any of those sort of small, those beer boxes, I find that the value's not in it for me. I think I've got enough knowledge now to not have to pay a company to curate my beer, and that sounds really snobby, and I don't mean it that way at all. But yeah, generally speaking, I know there's a lot of people that have got gripes with those companies as well, where maybe the quality isn't there. So yeah, I've personally stayed away from beer subscription boxes.
Yeah, it's funny how subscriptions now seem to permeate nearly every part of our lives, with like Netflix, and I pay monthly for my car on a lease, and I pay rent and all that sort of stuff. But it's funny how beer has sort of come into the equation as well, where there's that sense of like Loot Crate sort of box of stuff where you pay £16 a month or whatever you pay, and you get like a random box of something that you've kind of asked for. But I only bought one Beer 52 box because it was on a podcast advert, and you only have to pay for postage and packaging.
Okay.
But it was very similar to when I was a kid. There was like magazines where the first issue would be 99p.
Yeah.
And then the next 179 issues were like £7.99. So you end up paying like £1,000 to build a skeleton or something. And it's like, this is crazy. But yeah, it's just funny how this monthly sort of subscription loyalty sort of pledge your allegiance thing has landed with beer as well.
It's a sign of the times, isn't it? It's a sign of the times. I mean, you see a car advert now, they don't talk about the value of the car, it's monthly payments.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just another easy way of prizing money out of people's hands.
Definitely.
You know.
I think there's almost an element of it as well where you don't necessarily check your bank statement every month and it kind of goes under the radar. So you pay for like Spotify and it's almost like in your head, you're like, right, well, I'm going to lose £11 because that's Spotify.
Yep.
But yeah, are you signed up to any or are you completely off the grid? Yeah.
No. I'm signed up to Spotify. I absolutely love my music. I'm always listening to music, be it in the car, at work, at home, doesn't matter. What else have I got on the monthly? I've got like Canva, which is like a poster making app for YouTube.
Yeah.
My thumbnails. Yeah. I don't have YouTube Premium, I think it's called, because I just don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably a couple of months. I'm trying to think of. I support a couple of channels as well. There's a couple of channels that I watch that I sort of pay monthly to, just to sort of. I'd rather give my money to them than sort of BBC. I pay, obviously have a TV license, but I'd rather give my money. I'd rather support like the other guys if I can. So it's probably a couple of channel subscriptions that I've got as well.
Have you got any beer box subscriptions at the moment, or is that on the back burner for now?
No beer box subscriptions. What I like to do, I like to kind of hammer a brewery at a time. So if I'd like to sort of 1 month, I'll try. I should probably subscribe. There's a box called Bruiser where they do that every month. The different brewery features and you can choose it. But I'll normally go once a month or once probably every 2 months, realistically, if I'm honest. Now with the lager thing, German lager thing being such a thing, I might just hit up a different brewery once every couple of months, depending on. Obviously, it's all expenditure, isn't it?
Yeah. Completely. If you've got like 4 or 5 constant direct debits, takes the wind out your sails a bit sometimes, especially if you don't get paid correctly or you don't get the overtime this month round or something like that.
Exactly.
But last question for this meeting, and then we'll join the next one. If you could make your own signature beer, stout, whatever it is, cider, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word cider without you leaving the Zoom call.
That's awesome.
What would it be and why? What characteristics would you like your personal beer to have?
Honestly, I think I actually tasted the beer that I would love to make. It was by a brewery called Left Handed Giant, who were down in Bristol, and it was a 4.5%, I believe. Not Citra, talking nonsense. Sabro and Mosaic Pale Ale. Sabro's like proper rich coconut flavors, creamy, bit of citrus zest, and Mosaic's a bit sort of. It's quite tropical, quite soft, and the two flavors just sort of complement each other perfectly for me. So it would be a Sabro and Mosaic Pale Ale, 4.5%, probably brewed by Left Handed Giant as well because I love them. But yeah, that beer, I think I tasted it. I tasted the dream. So it's going to sound so sad to some people. I do apologise, but yeah,
that's all good. What would you call it?
Oh, what would I call it? I'm an electrician by trade. It's probably something like Shocking Intentions or something. Just make it sound a bit sort of moody. Yeah, probably something like that.
The Bright Spark beer.
Bright Spark beer, yeah. Except I'm not that bright, so.
It hasn't come up yet, but we'll get like a 10-minute warning in a couple of minutes. So we could probably ask this first. You've recently gone through a bit of a rebrand with your YouTube channel. So what was it called previous to the Craft Beer Hub?
It was just called Marc's Beer Reviews.
Yeah.
And that was kind of more of a name that I had out of necessity. There was a few things that lined up at the time that led me to start YouTube. And I just needed a name. And it was like, well, I'm going to review beer 99% of the time. So my name's Marc, so that just fit the bill. But as kind of things progressed, it was obvious that I didn't want to pigeonhole myself that way. So I think my last 2 videos uploaded at this point on YouTube aren't beer reviews, or are they? Then one might be. But what I like to do now is a lot more trade stuff, get in front of the trade. Be it brewers, buyers, enthusiasts, go to beer festivals, tours of cities, and I thought the Craft Beer Hub was a bit of a better name for that.
Yeah, so the most recent video other than an hour ago, which was Vibrant Forest Brewery.
Yeah.
You did exploring the UK's biggest bottle shop and off license.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Beers of Europe, and then you did an Aldi versus Lidl, which seems to just be a common thing all over these channels, doesn't it? Everyone's constantly raiding Aldi's shelves, and Lidl have just released a new beer, and it looks a lot like Brewdog, and will they get sued and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, love it. So yeah, you're happy with everything as it is in terms of you haven't pigeonholed yourself too much, because the reason I've called this Absolute Bedlam is because I want it to be whatever I fancy at the time. Most of it is very based around interviews like this.
Yeah.
But I also sometimes just want to try some hot sauce, or I want to review the latest bottle of Prime, or do some reaction videos with my editor. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think a channel name, a channel title is so important on YouTube. It's almost, it's a cover of your book.
Yeah.
And yeah, pigeonholing yourself under a certain name. I know of a few channels that maybe have done that and regret it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change the name early on, so I wasn't going to get caught that way. Just through learning, through experience of others, really.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're too far down the rabbit hole to come back out, sort of thing.
Yes.
When you rebrand at a certain level as well, then you're just not going to get the same level of conversion.
Well, this is a bit of an old relic. This is something I wanted when I first started.
See that. Yeah.
But I mean, I love it too much to get rid of it now.
That's all good. I didn't see that it had your channel name in the middle of it. I just saw the bottle caps and stuff on the outside. Cool. Right, we'll go to the next meeting. We'll let people have a bit of a break. We'll hammer them with an advert. And cheers for watching, listening, viewing, whatever you're doing whilst you're listening to this. If you're driving or whatever, then I'll speak to you in a bit. But yeah, see you in a sec, Marc. Cheers.
Sweet.
Do you need that extra burst of energy? Do you need motivation? Do you need that X factor? Well, Go Energy has you covered. Whatever gets your juices flowing. Whatever you need to let your hair down. Have a go at it all with Go Energy. Gluten-free, vegan-friendly, and no artificial additives. Go Energy. Use code Bedlam10 at checkout.
And we're back. So this is going to be a bit more YouTube-y. Obviously, we're doing this on YouTube. We're also doing this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that sort of stuff. What made you, Marc, decide to upload your first YouTube video? What was the justification behind pressing upload and sharing to the world?
A few different things lined up. So I'd always had camera filming equipment, and by that I mean literally in GoPros. I film on a GoPro day to day. I used to make holiday videos, so I've got like a private YouTube channel. All the videos are private, and I kind of just make holiday videos. And yeah, me and the wife we've been lucky enough to go on to some pretty awesome holidays. And yeah, I always like the videography side of things, and I wouldn't say I'm the most natural talking to a camera. I've had to sort that out. And then so that was kind of like the video side. Then obviously got massively. I was always into beer. 8 to 10 years ago, I really got into beer.
Yeah.
And then obviously through COVID, that just like I say, went through the roof. I said it earlier, sort of that I was part of the kind of craft beer bubble that appeared in COVID. I used to watch a few channels on YouTube, beer related channels, craft beer channel, Simon for Real Craft Beer, Lord's Brewing, people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd watched them for about 18 months, I think, by the time I probably uploaded first. And then I got second place with John from Lords. He ran a competition for one of these machines, which I've ended up buying anyway.
Okay.
I won second place. It was, I don't think it's not on the back here anymore. It was, John released a beer. I think it was like, send you a case, second place prize. And I ended up going on a live with them. And on StreamYard, for those that don't know, when you stop uploading or stop broadcasting, you still stay in a live, and it's very much like a conventional Zoom chat at that point. And John was like, "Oh, mate, you should really start a YouTube channel." And I was like, "Oh, now I probably need to do it." Now I'm kind of in with a few guys, I've got a bit of support there. Now I probably need to do it. So I was like, sod it, I'm doing it. So my first ever upload was John's beer, I think. Baller Mountain IPA in my kitchen, with some old cans on the shelving behind me. So yeah, it was kind of a few things lined up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I've always gone 2 foot into hobbies as well. I'm kind of one of those guys, like I've always gone 2 foot into hobbies, and I thought, sorry, I've got time. My daughter had recently been born. I was going to spend a lot of time at home. I drank the beer anyway and loved doing in-depth reviews of it on Untapped. So I was like, why don't I just film myself doing it?
Yeah.
Here we are.
I think there's a very sort of, I want to start a YouTube channel. What's nearby? How can I prop my phone up so that I'm recording? And it's literally just, hey guys, hope you're well. Today I'm going to be reviewing, and the product's in front of you. And there's obviously some people that have already tried the drink, and they're kind of faking it and saying it's their first reaction to this. But it's a very simple process, really, when you look at it from like a macro perspective. Whereas if you were, trying to outdo Top Gear, you'd have to go out and buy a new car every week. Yeah. Whereas a can of beer, you just go to the shop and buy a crate of it and hope that you like it. And it's something very sort of innocent about doing it, I think. And I do watch quite a lot of beer channels and stuff. Yeah. But I do like seeing when people try and break out of that little pigeonhole that they might have sort of put themselves in on day one. But yeah, there's something to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably one of the glory. I've never really thought about it that way. It's probably a really good point that you make about going down the shop and buying a beer. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an electrician like myself or whether you're a footballer. If you know, with money to burn, that this can of Vibrant Forest Inaudible is going to be the same can that's going to be in any shop. So it's probably a really good leveler, if you like, where everyone's on the same level. I haven't really thought about that. That's a really good point. I think that's probably what people quite like. I mean, I get a lot of messages from people saying, can you review this beer? Because I want to drink it with you. I want you to review it, and then I'll drink it with you and stuff like that. And I think, it's quite a good thing like that, I suppose. And I hadn't thought about that. It's quite a good point.
So on the back of that, where you get people messaging you to review stuff, this is kind of like a twofold question. But do you have a PO box?
I don't. I probably should do now. Okay. But
then people can obviously send you things, and you can review them and thank them and all that, and it becomes a bit more collaborative, doesn't it, with your audience? Yeah. And do you have a spare room in your house which is just fucking full of beer? Because
we're in it. We're in it. So what you can't see, I mean, I've got a couple in there. There's a couple of bottles there. This is a box full of like stronger beers. I'm not going to try and lift. No, that cool. Sits on top of a small fridge that's just full. There's another box underneath here. You can just about see it. A few bottles in here. If I rattle this, there's a couple of bottles underneath here. So this is the room. This is it.
This is the room. Love it.
This is the room.
Because there's a podcast I listen to quite a lot, and I've just actually spoken to one of the co-hosts of the podcast. It's Paul Gannon from Cheap Show, and they do a two-way sort of. They'll do like a sort of variation on a theme, like it's a Jubilee version of the Monopoly game. And Paul has said, like in various other podcasts that he's been a guest on in the past, like I've actually had to take these board games and actually had to set up a storage facility. Because what I've just said earlier about the PO box, people send them stuff constantly because it's quite a successful podcast. And he's like, this is a really weird problem to have. And I didn't think it would get to this stage. But I'm now having to pay monthly on a garage about 6 miles away from my house. filled with like Uno and frustration and Mousetrap, and yeah, it's just strange. There's also a massive YouTuber called Ali A. He's one of
I
like
know
the
Ali A.
biggest
Used to watch him back in
YouTubers
the
on the
day.
planet, and he's got a spare room in his house full of like PS5s, like TVs, like HD gaming monitors, because like Razer and Asus and companies like that want him to sort of promote the product.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, fucking hell, that's a bit of a weird, unique problem to have. You know, you accidentally go around his house and think that, oh, this would be where the spare toilet is, you know, this would be where the second bathroom is, and suddenly you're just tons of stuff falling on top of you.
£3,000 worth of PlayStations for them. Yeah, no, I certainly don't have that problem. I probably get sent stuff once every 2 months, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I was just recently in the New Forest, Vibrant Forest. These guys, they're on the edge of the forest, and they gave me a box of beers. I know a few of them now through the beer festival circuit and stuff. But then, yeah, I kind of get sent a little bit, not a lot, and certainly no storage facilities needed at the moment.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
you know.
Got you. So when people send you beer, do they want you to be 100% honest with your thoughts and opinions on it? Or do they want to, like, this is coming out in 2 weeks, so if I send you a couple of cans, can you sort of help me out? I don't know what the expression is, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. I would. It's always. I've never had it. I've never had this accusation leveled at me. I know it has been leveled at a few different people about honesty and products and things like that. I am straight. I'm straight down the line. If a brewery said to me, "Could we send you some beer?" and we want, because I rate stuff out of 5. We want you to give it a rating of 4.5 to 5 out of 5. I'd be like, you can send it to me, but I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm not anyone's. You know, I'm an independent channel, and a lot of this review stuff, it is based on integrity, because I think as soon as you lose that, you're in the mud. Your channel's really going to suffer, and a lot of stuff's going to come your way. And number 2, people aren't stupid.
Yeah.
They'll see it from a mile off. Like, you know, I'm a viewer of your YouTube channel, and other viewers that view my channel, they aren't stupid. They're going to see a change in attitude from me if they watch my videos all the time. So I would not even think about doing that. But no, I've never been asked to sort of fiddle a review. And if I was, I simply would not do it.
Yeah. I watch a lot of paranormal investigation stuff on YouTube. Yeah. And I think to myself, the second this gets exposed, or the second this stops being as real as it looks, then everything just goes to hell, basically. Because,
was it called Ghost Hunting Live or something? Ghost Hunters. What was it called? Derek and Cora, an event.
Oh, Most Haunted.
Most Haunted, that was it. You look at how quickly that unravelled for them. That was a massive show, wasn't it? And I think he got exposed on 1 or 2 things, didn't he?
Yeah.
It
was almost like Derek Okora was getting paid per possession, and it just started getting really out of hand. And that was a show that was on Living TV. Yeah, and that was one of their like first partnership sort of network and episode thing. And they ended up doing like a Most Haunted live.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, they were like all night broadcasts and stuff like that. They actually went to Athelhampton House in Dorchester, which is right near where I live. And yeah, I love that, but I was quite young and naive when that came out.
Same as that,
I was
mate.
Probably about 12 or 13. So I didn't realise that, you know, it was fake. But like you say, once you get that fake, it's hard to think otherwise, isn't it? Once your channel's been tainted with the persuasion of money or free stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, no, not for me, that, mate.
No, fair enough. What keeps you motivated to do YouTube, or is it just a hobby? Is it something that like you suddenly get a burst of inspiration, or you suddenly see a product coming down the runway, and like what keeps you motivated to do it from a content perspective? And then you've got your Instagram, and you've got your Facebook, and then you've got a post, and you've got the community tab on YouTube and stuff like that.
Definitely product products that you see coming, obviously Instagram and Reddit, there's obviously lots of chatter and bits and bobs that go. I mean, you probably see it a lot of the time, Ben. Most recently with like the Aldi Oktoberfest beer box. So yeah, certainly things like that excite me. And to be perfectly frank, videos that you know are going to get a few views. You know, that Aldi Lidl, the Aldi Oktoberfest. Well, no, the Lidl box. Sorry, it was a Lidl box. Sorry. I knew that was going to get some views. I was a bit late to the party with it. Still done a video, but equally the product excited me because I love German beer. So there's certainly that to it. And if, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I think you'd probably find that's a similar opinion from a lot of beer YouTubers. There's definitely like the trend stuff, isn't there?
Yeah.
Definitely breweries that I really follow and like when they release something new and exciting. Often that doesn't sort of more niche stuff. When I first started YouTube, I thought all the special editions are going to do amazing. You know, there's a it's not up here now, but there's a brewery called Emperors who brew fantastic imperial stouts. I remember when they collaborated with my local brewery, I was like tripping over myself to get hold of a can to get it up on YouTube. And a lot of the niche stuff doesn't get views, and that didn't get a lot of views. And ultimately, that's why we put ourselves out on YouTube, right? Like we want people to watch us and interact with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly like the exciting stuff, the stuff that like really makes me excited does it for me. I've never really been that bothered about subs. I mean, I've just passed 1,000.
Yeah.
But I've never really been that bothered about subs. It's something you always keep your eye on, but
yeah, definitely.
I mean, probably, if I'm honest, when I look at where I am sort of sub count to videos released, probably the fewest amount of videos I released was when I was between 900 and 1,000. Because I'm not motivated by subs. There was just nothing really exciting happening in the beer world. I've got a lot going on with a mobile craft beer horse box that I'm setting up as a business, and that kind of took precedence. So YouTube is very much a spare time thing for me.
Yeah.
But I do love it. I don't want to make it sound like it's worthless.
It's
not worthless. It's important to me, but yes, it's a spare time thing.
Without getting into numbers, do you earn an income, either secondary or tertiary, from YouTube at the moment, or is that something that you're working towards?
No, I mean 1,000 means you monetize and stuff like that. But I mean, I think if I'm honest with you, I've been monetized now at 1,000 for probably like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I think there's probably like $8 in there. It gives you like a little readout on there, and it's like, I think if people want to get on YouTube for money, it's the wrong industry. You're better off doing it for something. You're better off going somewhere else.
Absolutely.
If it's a hobby, and you know, some of the people I've met through YouTube, like speaking to you, Ben, for instance, now, and because we've never done this before, and a lot of the other channels and people that I've met through being on YouTube, it's been worth so much more than that $8 or whatever in the thing. No, the answer is no. I've not taken anything out of YouTube yet, and I don't. Obviously, I will at some point, and it will just get put back into the channel. But it's not something I lose sleep over. That's for sure.
I think that's definitely worth its weight in gold. That sentence, just then, of like, what's your intent behind YouTube, and why do you want to become like rich and famous and an influencer and go to things like YouTube Rewind conference, or I think there's a thing in Brighton called Summer in the City, and that's where like all the YouTubers culminate. And like, apparently this is like going off of Jack Mate's Happy Hour, which is on my favorite podcast. Apparently they come up to you, and if they don't recognize you from last year, some of the people there would ask you how many subs you've got on YouTube. They wouldn't ask what your name is. They'll ask what your stature is online. And I think that's a very toxic way of sort of viewing people, rather than people. They're actually just like a giant billboard to promote your products on. And it's a bit of a weird, insidious world, really. But it's all about intent. It's all about intent. I just do this because I enjoy it. And I think as well, what you said earlier, Marc, is like, you would do this even if it wasn't a YouTube thing. You would still go out, buy the beer, drink the beer, have a thought, and you know, you just happen to be filming it and documenting the experience.
Absolutely. I've been doing it on tap for a couple of years. So
Is there a story behind the sheep behind you on your tower of influence?
This is actually a goat, right?
Okay,
And I don't know how the joke started, but there's a guy. He lives quite relatively near me, actually. He's actually I know Blue Van Man's recorded a video with Jack, but a chap called Jack Howard sent me a goat and 4 beers and a glass. That was the second ever sort of package I ever received, and that meant a lot to me. I don't really see him very often now, Jack. I know he had a couple of twins. I think he's got other kids, and I know his mum wasn't very well at some point. So if he watches this, I hope she's okay, Jack. But yeah, it meant a lot to me just receiving that. So yeah, that's got a special place up on my shelf.
Nice, love that. Yeah, I've just taken on a new sponsor. I'll show you the back. They Go Energy.
That looks good.
Yeah, I'll try and get you a couple of cans over if you want.
Oh, nice one.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd like to try it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's not like Monster and Red Bull. It's kind of got a bit of a soft feel to it, and it doesn't give you this awful come down when you drink energy drink. You go up, and then you go straight back down, and becomes very sort of coffee, where you've got to keep drinking the coffee throughout the day, and then you go up, and then you come back down. But yeah, shout out to Go Energy for putting up with this channel and
Are you UK
constantly
based?
sending me stuff. Yeah.
Nice one.
From Frisk, I think they're called.
Oh, okay.
You know where that is? I think it's just north of Leeds.
Oh, nice. Fair play to them.
It might be Firsk.
Firsk, yeah. I've heard Firsk, I think.
Yeah, I would like to meet them at some point because they're just. I did Google Maps it, but it was like 7.5 hours away from my house. And I was like, fuck, you know.
You're a good way down there, mate.
Yeah, we'll have to meet in the middle at some point. But yeah, this is not the best place to network, Weymouth. So I might have to sort of meet people in London and Bristol and stuff if I want to actually get out and about and stuff. That leads me quite nicely onto my next question, which is a bit of a YouTube thing, and then we'll just go into random quick fire questions that I've got written down. Do you have like a layout schedule wise year to year of what conferences you go to, or do you kind of get invited to things last minute, or do you plan it?
I mean, I'm still, like I said earlier, like, because this channel is like pure enjoyment, so a lot of it's kind of what I feel I want to do. It's good now. It's good, obviously, for like the beer YouTube world, and creators in general, be it Instagram or whatever. That a lot of the festivals are recognizing like the shift, if you know what I mean, into the more of a modern world where I'm not saying my voice or anyone else's, or certainly not my voice. There's some voices that carry good weight, but I think they're realizing the influence of social media and, you know, the kind of creator world. So a lot of these festivals, you just apply. And you apply for a press pass. It's ordinarily called that, and you put your information in, your channel name, blah blah blah, and you more often than not get one. So yeah, it's sort of in terms of like festivals that I go to. I mean, there's not all of them are free. I go to a lot of paid festivals as well, and I never expect anything for free. That's for sure. It's lovely when it comes, of course, but yeah, it's kind of what I feel, to be honest, Ben. I think one of the best beer festivals that I went to this year was the London Craft Beer Festival at Tobacco Dock. And I think I got my press pass like 3 days before we went, because I was kind of like, oh, do I go? And I just had a good week. I'd had a good week up to that point, and I thought, sod it, I'm going to get a pass. And I bought a pass for that. So yeah, it's very much sort of how I feel. There's a few festivals I do look out for. London Craft Beer Festival will be one next year, that's for sure. But Brew London's fantastic normally. GBBF Olympia is amazing. But next year I'll probably want to do a few more. And I said it for this year, but it didn't happen. But next year I'll probably want to do a few more like further afield, different cities. I'm getting dragged down to London all the time. When I lived in Kent, I'd done my time in London working. The atmosphere in London, you get very used to it. There's certain cities that I've not really been to that much, like Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, you know, big beer cities now. And I'd like to probably try a few of those festivals, a few of the sort of smaller independent festivals rather than the big ones down in London.
Yeah. Do you go as a punter or a press person, or do you go with the idea of helping someone that's already doing a stall there? Or do you... go on.
I've been sort of at everything, really. I've been sort of a normal paying punter. Majority of the beer festivals have been as press, because you get... It's a bit of a weird one. So beer festivals like Brew London, for instance, they're very sort of like clubby music vibes. But if you go in the press what do they call it? Trade day. You get invited to like the trade session. They don't have the music on there because there's business to be done, and it's certainly sort of not business for me, but it's business for other people. You know, stockists and things like that. And you find filming's a lot easier because you don't get all the copyright songs over your videos. That's a big motivation for getting a press pass. Equally, I went to York Beer Festival last year as just a normal paying punter. It's sort of if there's a press pass, great. If there's not, I'll still go if I want to go.
Nice, love that. And finally, let's promote the shirt that you're wearing. Is that publicly available merch?
You know what? Someone asked me this the other day, and it's like, do you really want to wear this? It's not publicly available, but if people do want them, I can put you in contact with the store that does them. I don't want any rules. Like I say, I'm not money motivated for this channel. You can just buy them direct. I think they're about 9 or 10 quid or something, and they'll ship them to you as well. I'm sure they've got a shipping distribution company. But yeah, if you do want one of these, because it's got the back done as well and stuff. If you do want one, get in contact and I'll get you one. I'll put you in touch, and I'll happily give them permission to sell off. You know, not to me. But no, I have thought about. Someone asked me the other day, and I thought, do I do a shop? And I was like, I just can't be dealing with the drama. You know? I'd rather just let it. And I'm like I say, what's like not being funny for the amount I'm going to sell, the £4 per shirt I'd probably make. You know, it's not worth it.
You end up also having boxes like we were mentioning earlier of the stuff in your house, kind of gathering dust, and unless you're like actively trying to flog it, then there was always a joke with Lemmy from Motorhead that he single-handedly got Ace of Spades to #1 because he bought like 78,000 copies of the album and put it all in his loft or something.
What a legend.
But he is a legend. Rest in peace, Lemmy. Shout out. So these are random questions. I'll ask you one or two now, and then I'll have to flick over to another note because this is how my mind works. I have a Google Keep note for literally everything in my entire life. So, Marc, when you are taking the bins out, nice highbrow podcast, do you follow or lead when you're taking out the bins? Do you know which bin you need to take out when, or do you find yourself peeking at the neighbours and going, right, it's green tonight?
You better believe I'm peeking.
Yeah.
100%. I'm useless with that.
Yeah. Love it. And do you have any ghost stories, any paranormal experiences, anything like that?
You know what? I do. It was one of the last.
Get in.
Yes, it's how. I mean, I'm just conscious of time, better than how much time we got, but I'll give the medium length story. So we were working in this really old farmhouse, and the old farmhouse was one of these old. It was that old. It was on like floating foundations. It had like slipped down the hill. It was ancient, this place, and I was wiring it up, and the restoration company were in there, and I was on this it's called a multi cutter. It's got the most horrible noise when you use it. It's awful. And I was cutting out for a switch, and I felt like a strike across my shoulder. And I used to work with my mate called Joe, nicknamed Jukey. So I had my ear defenders on, goggles on, dust everywhere. I went, 1 minute, Jukey, and I'm cutting out the thing. And I stopped on the cutter because it's quite dangerous. Don't want to swing around with that thing. And I went, yeah, Jukey. And he was like, what? I was like, what do you want? And he was like, what do you mean? And basically, it turns out that the room I was working in was adjacent to another room that was known as the gambling room. So back in the old days in the farms, in the 1800s, early 1900s, they used to earn their money, the people that lived on the farm, go up to the gambling room and obviously gamble it away. And there's a story, it's a story that had been in the house for many years. One chap lost all his money and himself. Oh, it's giving me goosebumps now talking about it. I'm not even joking. Himself beams through the stairwell. Big old beautiful old place. And I went down and told the site manager, Leon, and he was like, oh, you've met blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the ghost's name. And he was like, yeah, a few of us have had that. And one lad was really into it, and he was going to be right up for this, Ben.
Yeah.
Camera, it was a kind of he was, because this is not far from Pluckley, which is one of the most haunted places in the UK.
Right.
Which he'd regularly film in. And he had this camera set up at the bottom of the stairs, giving me goosebumps again talking about this. And there was an orb that went up, and it was like on one of those stairs. It was sort of went up, turned 90 degrees, further up, and then up again. And this orb, seriously got goosebumps talking about this.
Yeah.
moved up the stairs and out of shot, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's my ghost story. Pretty good one, I think.
So were you about to say that you're not a believer?
Well, no, it's not that I was going to say I'm not really like part of the
Yeah.
paranormal activity sort of fraternity.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, that day I was 100%.
But that's what makes the story so good, and that's why I asked that question, is because you can see how invested people are when they tell their story.
Oh mate,
because to them that actually happened. Like, and even if you're not a believer, I think if I do one day get like a paranormal person on like full time on the podcast, and I just interview them, and they're just like, yeah, I saw a bit of dust the other day and it was my nan. I'm like, well, no, like you have to be a bit skeptical. You have to look at the science and the physics and stuff. But yeah, I felt that story. It's good.
Yeah, that's like I genuinely think a ghost has touched me. Like that's, I'm not, like I say, I'm not like trying to believe it. Like I genuinely think
that's it. Yeah, I love seeing the investment. I love it. Another random one. Favorite animal and favorite animal noise.
Oh, I love red pandas.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I just think they're just amazing to look at. I saw one for the first time in Australia Zoo back in 2017. I wouldn't say I was like emotional, but I was just like, wow, there's a red panda up there. Favorite animal noise. I like it when when a hippo snaps its mouth.
Yeah.
It kind of goes, oh, and it's just like power. It just sounds like power.
Yeah.
It's randomly a hippo like slamming its mouth shut. It's going to sound random, but yeah, it's true.
Joe Rogan says that they're one of the deadliest animals in the world, hippos.
Yeah. I think they've got some
fuck
pretty,
you up.
Yeah, I think they've got some pretty scary stats attached to them.
Yeah.
You know.
Favorite children's TV show? You can have two if you want.
Oh, I've got to say Peppa Pig. My daughter's just about to turn 2, and she's so into Peppa Pig now. And a TV show probably from my. Are we allowed to do my era, or does it have to be current?
Of course.
Oh, my era. Do you remember that? Was it called Zap? There was that magazine show.
Yeah.
You're just a bit younger than me.
Yeah,
and
I know what you mean.
The magazine cover, and it used to sort of go in. There was like 10 different people. It used to do like 3 people per episode. It was on a Friday.
Yeah.
I seem to remember. So yeah, Zap. I think it was Zap, the magazine show.
I think Art Attack had a bit of that as well, where it was like, come this way, and there was like loads of like faces, like an advent calendar, and it would be like, this person gets the stage today, and who knows what will happen next week. And Neil Buchanan is a rock star now. When he stopped doing Art Attack, he became like a really successful heavy metal guitarist or something like that.
Oh my lord, that shocks me.
I hope that he has like an easel guitar, and like the paintbrush is like the neck of the guitar. If not, he's missed a massive opportunity there, hasn't he? Right. So,
well, yeah.
That's all right. So, random questions, just completely say one word, and we'll move on to the next one. We've got about 9 minutes left, so we'll try and make them as quick as possible. So, do you think a Kinder Egg is a toy or a deliciously chocolate treat with the bonus of a toy added inside of it?
The second option, it's a delicious treat with a toy.
Camping in a tent or a static caravan for 1 week?
Oh, I could do a 10 1 week. I probably prefer that.
Yeah. Living in a city or living in the countryside?
I'm a country boy. Countryside, 100%.
Chocolate or sweets?
Chocolate.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Mornings or evenings?
Evenings.
Mario or Sonic?
Sonic.
Apple juice or orange juice?
Apple juice, but it's got to be Capella.
Okay. There you go. Brand shout out if you want to work with Marc. Get involved. Weirdest place you've ever slept?
Oh. Quickly, a mate's driveway 2 weeks ago in my VW camper van because I was too drunk to drive home.
If it wasn't for the camper van, then I would have asked a lot more questions, but that's fair enough. If you could take away one item from a house to slightly inconvenience someone, what would the item be and why?
Oh, it's going to have to be. It's just a question. A bed. The
Yeah.
whole bed setup.
I'll do it. Love it. Fantastic. Got about 7 minutes. Have you got any questions for me at all? Anything you want? I'll be as honest as possible.
Yeah. Obviously, a podcast. We were saying off air. You sort of filming between generally on average once a week. How do you decide who you want on?
Honestly, at this point, until I'm taking requests from like an actual community of people that engage with me daily, I'm just getting on who I watch on YouTube, who I am genuinely interested in. This kind of started as a COVID sort of like, if you're alone, you can listen to this, and it could be like background music and that sort of thing. And it started as an audio thing, whereas now it's video. I've had some real success with music people, and I've also had some real success with YouTube people like Ashens and Blue Van Man and people like that, and they've given me so much of their time. And Robbie Knox as well, had him on quite early doors.
What a legend he is.
Yeah, and
did you have him on, Robbie Knox?
Yeah, he's audio only. I'll send you the link, but that was quite early on, because he was on about doing bin day brewing. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it's up and running.
So,
brews it up at somewhere in Grimsby.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a laugh, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, I'm happy to take suggestions from people, but people seem to be fairly happy with the people that I schedule and plan myself. So, and sometimes I have to go through these PR hoops, like I explained off recording, of emailing a manager, to email a record label, to email blah blah blah, and sometimes that can get a bit like, oh god, this is a bit work. So I like to try and keep it varied and have people from YouTube, Twitch, radio DJ, a personal trainer, someone that I think's interesting, private detective, private investigator. And I still want to get some paranormal people on. I do want to do a paranormal investigation myself, because I was meant to do one this year, but I just haven't been able to find anyone that would facilitate having me on, sort of thing, as well as. But yeah. Good fun.
That's pretty good. What about someone? I presume as you go up the kind of podcast chain, I mean, you look at podcasts like the High Performance Podcast, the chap you mentioned earlier,
Diary CEO Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, Diary CEO, and I mean, at that point, is it fee paying, or are those people on there because they want to be on there? Do you know that? I mean, like Happy Hour Podcast, Jack gets some pretty good people on. Does he pay them to be there, or they are under their own steam?
I think there's a mix. There's a guy I listen to quite a lot called True Geordie, and he asked Floyd Mayweather if he'd come on, and he said something like, I'll come on for $65,000 or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but I think that's what he said. And I think now with people at the top echelon of podcasting that are getting 100,000 monthly listeners or whatever, there's definitely an element of, I want to come on and promote something, but I also admire what you've built and how you've kept the steam on. So there's probably a little bit of payment. Like, I did ask Sean Smith from the Blackout if he wanted any money for coming on my podcast. He was like, no, I just want to chat to you. I've asked Brendan from Wheatus if he wanted any money, and he was like, no, I'm good, man. Don't worry about it. And I'm going to go see them actually in 2 weeks at Portsmouth as a VIP. So that'll be cool. But yeah, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, but yeah, I don't know in terms of the top echelon of people. I'm not entirely sure. It's probably a bit of both, where one hand kind of washes the other, and you're doing me a favor and I'll do you a favor. But also that brutality of having to do 2 episodes a week. You kind of have to grab someone who might be a bit controversial, like, I don't know, say Nigel Farage is doing a political campaign or something.
Yeah, I know.
Get him on, have a chat with him. I know Diary of a CEO, he had Piers Morgan on. So you get this, and I think he had Matt Hancock on as well. Boo. Yeah. But you'd want to have a chat with them and find out what their actual motives are, because you only ever see like a 40-second clip on the BBC, Whereas actually sitting down with someone for an hour and having an actual conversation with them is a bit of a different story.
Yeah, it's nice because I think that Diary of the CEO one, I think he's got it structured in such a way it literally looks like a stripped out conversation between two people, almost as if the cameras aren't there.
Yeah,
I think it's his USP.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good for the public to get insights, like that.
Definitely. Right, I'm going to leave you to it. Thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate you very much. Cheers for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. If you aren't subscribed, just drop a thing down there. It's free. Press the button. Join the Bedlam. Join the Hive. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Marc.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for having me on.
Go check Marc out and let him know if you want to buy some merch. All right? Nice one. See you in a bit.
Absolute Bedlam.
Hey guys, it's John here from Absolute Bedlam. We just wanted to take a moment to introduce you to our brand new Patreon. If you head over to Patreon now, you can get access to behind the scenes footage, ad-free content and episodes. You can even send your own requests in terms of the content you would like to see us create. All of this is available to you and more. We've got free options available to you as a patron with us. If you just want to support what we do and help build the Absolute Bedlam experience, a small fee of £1 a month, you can do just that. If you want to get access to that ad-free content, those ad-free episodes, for £5 a month, you can join the Hive. And if you want all of that and more behind the scenes footage, commission works with us, live Q&A sessions, for £10 a month, all of the madness, all of the chaos of Absolute Bedlam will be yours. So head over to Patreon now, become a patron, and join the Hive.
Absolute Bedlam podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?